Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Bringing you greetings from Texas Southern University, Center for Biomedical and Minority Research here in TSU. And this is the Community Engagement Core. Happy to have everyone join us online, as well as those that are at our viewing site at Santa Maria also this beautiful afternoon. Today, we will be having an amazing discussion when we look at mental health. And for as many that might not know, May is the Mental Health Awareness Month. And the focus of today's presentation is going to be on changing minds, changing lives, emotional wellness through self-care and prevention. So we are so happy that every one of you have joined us today, and please sit tight and enjoy today's presentation as we move into it. My name is Veronica Ajewole. I am the Director for the Community Engagement Core here at TSU, Center for Biomedical and Minority Health Research.
Texas Southern University's Center for Biomedical and Minority Health Research Community Engagement Core is funded by the National Institute of Minority Health and Health Disparity Research Center for Minority Institutions program. The CEC works directly with communities to identify and address health-related concerns and reduce health disparities related to ethnic minorities. We provide health education and partnerships with healthcare systems, federally qualified health centers, community and faith-based organizations. For more information, visit us on social media at CEC Texas Southern U, or give us a call at 713-313-1233, or send us an email at cbmhrcommunity@tsu.edu.
Okay, so that is a brief introduction of who we are at the Community Engagement Core of CBMHR. Just a couple of announcements. Again, I want to say a big welcome to everyone and thank you for joining us. We ask that you please remain muted throughout the course of today's presentation. There will be question and answer at the end. And please feel free to also post whatever questions you have in the chat box during the presentation. Our speakers will make time to answer the questions at the end of their presentation. We want to say a big thank you to our hybrid location at Santa Maria also, and to all the community engagement course staff and volunteers, our students, at all the locations in Santa Maria also. So Santa Maria has been serving the women and children of Houston and surrounding areas since the mid-1950s. By offering vital services and life-changing support, the organization offers a pathway to success through recovery. Santa Maria will continue to evolve to meet the needs of those they serve by expanding and refining their continuum of care, delivering services with the highest level of professionalism and compassion. Moving forward, Santa Maria will continue to expand services for the entire family unit, ensuring each family member and the family as a whole is supported and empowered through a strong foundation for success. So we want to say a big thank you to Santa Maria also, and a special thanks to Miss Maria Cheney, the Senior Director for Community Engagement at Santa Maria, for helping us to walk through the logistics and giving us an open hand to be able to have this hybrid streaming at your location. We really appreciate it. We also want to say thank you to our partnering organization. This is Trinity United Methodist Church. So this is one of the faith-based organizations that is actively involved in community outreach and addressing health disparities within the Houston area. So Trinity United Methodist Church, thank you for partnering with us during today's seminar presentation. We also want to say thank you to TSU's University Counseling Center. Again, like I said earlier, May is the month of mental health awareness. So the phone numbers and the lines to call if anyone needs counseling are listed on this slide. So please feel free to reach out to the University Counseling Center for any support that might be needed, regarding any counseling services. As part of what we do in the community engagement call, we are very aware to receive feedback from our valued partners and seminar participants. So there will be a link that will be posted in the chat box as I'm speaking now. Please feel free to click on that link and complete the survey. This survey would offer us valuable information on how we can best position ourselves to serve the community and to provide services to each and everyone within our area. This survey is available in English as well as Spanish. And we also have giveaways of $10 gift card to the first 10 eligible participants that complete the survey. So please click on the link and complete the survey. We really look forward to hearing the feedback from you. Again, welcoming everyone to our seminar this afternoon, where we would have two speaker sessions, one from Dr. Cooper, one from Dr. Milton, and we also have a meditation exercise that will be provided by Ms. Lauren Ikland. So please sit tight and let us dive right into our programming for today. Join me in welcoming Dr. Karen Cooper. Dr. Cooper serves as the director of the University Counseling Center at Texas Southern University. Dr. Cooper is a licensed professional counselor, a board-approved supervisor in the state of Texas. Dr. Cooper has been in the mental health field for over a decade and has worked with children, adolescents, and adults in various settings, including community agencies, institutions of higher education, and the private sector. Her specialties include college counseling, trauma recovery, life transitions, maternal mental health, and other common mental health conditions. So without further ado, I want you all to join me in welcoming Dr. Karen Cooper.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this very important topic, something that's near and dear to my heart, which is emotional wellness and just mental health itself. And so I'm going to pull up the slide and we're going to dive right in. So today we're talking about emotional wellness through self-care and prevention. And so first I would ask you all to take a few seconds and ask yourself the question, are you emotionally well? Like, do you know like what it means to be emotionally well? Can you tell when your emotions are in a good space? Just being able to connect with yourself to say like, hey, how am I feeling today? Am I emotionally well? And so when we talk about emotional wellness, of course, there's different definitions and different approaches to how people say, you know, you should be able to remain emotionally well. But for today, I'm going to focus on 3 points. One is having an awareness and understanding of your emotions. The second part is being able to accept the emotions that you feel, and then also having the ability to manage your emotions. And so if you're able to kind of focus and connect on these 3 things, it would allow you to manage your emotions on a better space. And we'll dive deeper into each of these. So awareness and understanding. So when it comes to emotional wellness, one of the important factors is being able to be aware and understand the emotions that you're experiencing. And one part of that is understanding your emotions and then your reactions to different things. And examples of that is like you being able to identify when you're becoming angry about a certain situation, or if a certain situation is making you sad. By understanding that, that will help you to be able to manage those emotions in those particular situations. Another key factor of having an awareness of and understanding of your emotions is identifying, do you have a certain pattern to your emotions? So some people, they find themselves becoming depressed like during the winter months. And so by them understanding that, they know how to better prepare themselves for the winter months. Or say like if you're in a certain situation that you know causes you to be anxious, causes you to overthink, by knowing this, this will also allow you to be able to control your emotions. Also, having an awareness of and an understanding of what's triggering your emotions. So what's causing you to feel angry? What's causing you to be upset? Again, by having that in-depth awareness and understanding of your emotions, it gives you more control over your emotions. The second part of emotional wellness is the acceptance part, the ability to accept the emotions that you experience. Sometimes because we don't want to appear weak or we don't want to appear that we don't have it together, if someone asks how we're doing and say we're not feeling our best, say we're sad or we're stressed, we might just say like, oh, I'm okay. Because again, we don't want to label ourselves as feeling sad, or we may not want to label ourselves as feeling stressed or overwhelmed. But again, when it comes to you being emotionally well, being able to label exactly how you're feeling. The second part of that, feel the emotion. You know, sometimes we may find ourselves being angry and it's like, you know what, I don't have time to be angry. I have too much stuff to do. Or I don't have time to be sad. I have too much stuff to do. Or I don't have time to be stressed. I have too much stuff to do. And so when you do that, it's like you putting a Band-Aid over the emotion. And so you're just piling those emotions on under that Band-Aid. And then eventually, unfortunately, those emotions come erupting to the forefront, and then you're kind of emotionally all over the place. So feeling those emotions when they happen will help you to better control and manage your emotional wellness. The last part is accepting the way that you're feeling, like being able to accept, you know what, today I'm sad, you know, I am feeling sad. And that's how I'm feeling, because again, by you being able to do that, it gives you more control over managing those emotions. Some of the common emotions that we experience are sadness, happiness, fear, and anger. And so these are like the core emotions that a lot of us experience throughout our lifetime. And of course, underneath each of these common emotions are those other emotions. So like sadness, that can include like feeling depressed, feeling down. Happiness includes like joy, excitement. Fear, that comes with like anxiety, feeling nervous. Anger, that includes like the frustration and the irritability. And so by you understanding what are your common emotions that you experience, again, it gives you that control to be able to find yourself being emotionally well, because you're able to control your emotions better. Third and final part of emotional wellness is your ability to manage your emotions. A lot of the work that we do here in the Counselor Center with students is we try to teach them how to have a healthy life balance. You know, sometimes students or just, you know, community partners, they find themselves like having to work, maybe having to go to school, trying to juggle family dynamics. And sometimes that can become overwhelming to where you're not able to check in with yourself and manage your emotions. So having a healthy life balance can help you to manage your emotions better. And also being able to use different coping skills. And again, a lot of what we do here is teaching others what are some coping skills you can do to manage your emotions. Some of the go-to coping skills that we highlight is meditation. And a little while later, you all actually have the privilege of going through like a meditation exercise. So meditation, to where you can just sit and exist and just find yourself grounding yourself, will help you to better your emotions. Journaling, what I like to do with a lot of the students that I work with is I have them create what's called a good day journal. And so despite if they've had a rough day, if they've had a great day, at the end of each day, I challenge them to write at least 3 good things about their day. And so what this allows them to do, say if they do have a very rough, stressful day, they can pull out the good day journal, remind themselves of the things that they've done previously that's allowed them to have a good day. They imply those the next day, and that allows them to have better days. So it's just kind of a creative way for you to manage your emotions. Mindfulness, again, it's kind of close to like meditation, to where you stay in the present. You don't worry about things that happened in the past. You don't worry about your future, but you truly just stay present in the moment. And by doing that, that gives you some clarity to where, again, you're able to manage your emotions. And if you're a spiritual or a religious person, you know, being able to practice your spirituality and praying kind of helps you manage your emotions. And I always like to give the example of, we all know how wonderful the traffic in Houston is. And so when there's, you know, heavy traffic, sometimes I find myself praying like, God, you know, just continue to give me the peace and patience so that I don't get road rage. And so by me doing that and praying in that moment, I'm able to manage my emotions so that I don't become angry or frustrated or anything like that. So the second part of, now that we kind of know like what you may need to do to know if you're emotionally well by going through those three things of accepting and labeling your emotions, feeling your emotions, and then finding ways to manage it, we're going to move into the part of how you can prevent, yourself from kind of being emotionally all over the place, as well as different self-care techniques that you can do to manage your emotions just that better. So just kind of think to yourself, like, how do you truly care for yourself? So when we talk about prevention, one of the things that we talk about is just knowing your triggers. The good part about this is like, if you know what's triggering you, then you know, like if you need to create distance between yourself and the triggers, if you need to find ways to avoid situations that trigger you. So by knowing your triggers, it kind of helps you be able to control like when your emotions erupt or present themselves. Another form of prevention is using coping skills to manage those triggers. So when we talk about triggers, it's being able to ask yourself, well, what triggers you? And if you reflect to the last time that you were angry, or if you were sad, or if you were nervous or experienced any type of fear, asking yourself what caused that. So some of the common emotional triggers that we experience are people. Sometimes people are triggering to us for whatever reason. Sometimes when we're in the presence of certain other people, they could trigger us to become angry instantly, or they could cause us to become irritable or stressed, or sometimes even anxious. Experiences can also be emotional triggers for us. And that could be like lived experiences. It could include like traumatic events. It could just be, situations that we go through that could trigger our emotions. Another example are events, and something that comes to mind because it's been back in the news a lot lately is the whole Astroworld Festival that happened at the beginning of the year. And so I think about like the people who were maybe present there, who saw everything that was going on, or even family members of those, who passed away. Like sometimes seeing that on the news can be an emotional trigger for those who lived through and experienced that. Certain things, it could be different things that can be emotionally triggering. I think about sometimes when I'm trying to open like a water bottle, say I've come in and it's hot outside and I'm really thirsty and I'm trying to open a water bottle and the cap just won't open, I can become emotionally triggered and I can become stressed and overwhelmed and say, you know what, nothing is going right, and just angry. So like even small things can be triggering for your emotions. And then, of course, we have the underlying mental health conditions. So if you're diagnosed with like depression, anxiety, PTSD, anything along the lines of that, that could cause your emotions to fluctuate as well. And a note for you to take is that emotional triggers are unique to each person. So what that means is that just because you respond to a trigger, or if you respond to a certain situation with certain emotions, that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's going to respond that way, and that's okay. Or that means that there's nothing wrong with you if you're responding to an emotional trigger one way and nobody else is, because again, emotional triggers are unique to each person. So some coping skills to manage the triggers we kind of just talked about. One, being able to be aware of your emotional responses. And so what that means is the way that you can tell if something is triggering you is by your emotional response. So even if you see someone that you're very fond of and they're walking towards you, if you find yourself being happy and being joyful, then that means that they're triggering you emotionally, but in a good way, because they're bringing you joy and happiness. Now, say if it was someone else who was approaching you and you find yourself being nervous or anxious or sad or anything like that, then that lets you know that that person is unfortunately triggering you in a not good way, right? And so that could be, again, with events, different things. So just kind of being able to pay attention to your emotional response to situations and things, and that'll let you know if those things are one of your triggers. Again, another coping skill to manage your triggers, limit your exposure to it. So if it's people that's triggering you, keep your distance from them. If it's like certain situations, certain places that bring back, memories that causes your emotions to fluctuate, maybe not visit those places. And then lastly, being able to practice mindfulness to help control your trigger response. And so again, the example could be you're getting a phone call from someone who has a history of stressing you out, whenever you talk to them. And so in that moment, you see their name come across the caller ID and it's like, You know what, I'm not in a good space. I don't want to talk to them right now. I'll call them back later. Instead, I'm going to go do this self-care activity to make myself feel better. So in that moment, just from that brief example that I just gave you, that's how you can practice mindfulness to help control your trigger responses. So self-care. One of the top things that I like to teach students and clients that I work with is being able to establish boundaries. If you're not one who has boundaries set around you, sometimes, unfortunately, that leaves you open to having all these triggers being able to access you. So by setting boundaries and establishing boundaries, that is also a preventative way from you not being exposed to your triggers. Another form of self-care is engaging in daily self-care activities. So when we talk about setting boundaries, of course, the list can be exhausting. You know, it's not just one simple list. Like, you can set boundaries in different aspects and different areas of your life. But I'm just giving you some examples today of how you can set those boundaries. So emotional boundaries. One way that you can set an emotional boundary is avoid becoming overly involved in and taking on others people's pains, issues, or concerns. Because just think about it, if you yourself are trying to navigate and deal with your emotions, how would it feel taking on other people's emotions and pains when you're not even dealing with yourself? Sometimes that can just become really overwhelming and can truly trigger your emotions. If you're employed, sometimes you have to set boundaries at work so that doesn't stress you out. And that's being able to that's being able to use your no. And so you don't have to be blunt, like, no, I'm not going to do that. But if someone comes and asks you to do something, it's being able to say, you know, right now I have, a lot of things on my plate, but I will definitely try to look at that once I'm finished. And so you can give your casual no to set those work boundaries. Avoid taking on too many tasks. Try not to overwork yourself, because again, when you get to a place of being stressed and you're overwhelmed and you have all these things going on, sometimes we neglect ourselves, which triggers that emotional response. Also at work, try to prioritize, create, and stick to a schedule. By being organized, it gives you more control over maybe how your workday flows, which also gives you control over your emotions and your response to things throughout the day. Also set boundaries with yourself. Throughout the day, check in with yourself. If you know that you woke up and you were in a good mood, but by midday, you're kind of feeling stressed or feeling down, check in with yourself to see what may have triggered that or what could be causing that. And if it's something that you can remove yourself from, absolutely do it. So again, you can take control over your emotions again. As I've been saying, limit exposure to your triggers. Don't expose yourself to the things, people, situations that are triggering you. And definitely make sure that you schedule me time into your daily routine, whatever that looks. It could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, we say 30 minutes, but try to schedule some me time throughout your day so that you can truly check in with yourself. And a mental note for you to take from this is saying no to someone or something else is saying yes to yourself. And I promise, if you get in the habit of saying yes to yourself, you will have better control over your emotional responses to things. So a while, earlier I mentioned about self-care activities. So just to give you some examples of what self-care activities you could incorporate into your daily routine, getting regular exercise. My staff and I here at the Counseling Center, we make it a point to every day, if it's not too hot or if the weather is cooperating, to take a walk. Like, we'll just take a walk across campus, and that's exercise, but it's also mindfulness. So it's just allowing us to kind of reconnect with ourselves to make sure that we're emotionally well. You may hear this all the time, but eating healthy, yes, that does help with your emotions. So just try to find yourself having like healthy snacks and healthy meals, and definitely drinking water throughout the day. Develop good sleeping habits. If you're getting adequate amount of sleep, that allows your mind and body to rest, which also will make you feel better to where you have more control over your emotions. Practice gratitude. And again, that can go into the good day journal. Be grateful for the good things that happen, because if not, and we focus on all the negative things, just imagine we're going to feel down, we're going to feel negative because that's all we're focusing on. But when we incorporate gratitude, it causes us to focus on the good things that are happening in our life, the things that we're grateful for. So try to practice gratitude. Stay connected with others. If there are individuals that are around you, your tribe, your group, your friends, your associates, colleagues, or whatever, and if they're positive individuals and when you're around them, they trigger those good emotional responses, try to stay connected with them. So if you are having a rough day, reaching out to them so they can help you regain control. And also engage in hobbies or enjoyable activities. So things that you like doing, if it's listening to music, painting, drawing, walking, being out in nature, try to do those on a daily basis, because that will also help you balance out as you, remain, as you try to reconnect and manage your emotions. And I will leave you with this quote: self-care is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation. So being able to take care of yourself, again, it's being able to connect with your emotions, to see what's triggering your emotional responses. If it's triggering, emotions that you're not wanting to feel, like sadness, depression, anxiety, anger, fear, anything like that, distancing yourself from those triggers, and then engaging in self-care activities. And so that concludes my presentation. Again, thank you all so much for allowing me to be a part of this wonderful event. And I hope that I dropped some jewels that you all can take, with you and apply so that you can make sure that you're remaining emotionally well.
That's beautiful. Such great content that Dr. Cooper has shared with us today. A lot of nuggets that, I'm taking notes in my own, that I will be able to apply to my own personal life. And I'm sure our attendees and the participants in Santa Maria also will find, several points that we can pretty much, put to use today.
Let's hope so. Yes.
Yes. So thank you so much for sharing that great content. Please, for all the attendees online and for those at Santa Maria also, please send in your questions so that Dr. Cooper will be able to answer those questions right after the meditation exercise that we'll be having with Ms. Ikland. For those in Santa Maria also, we have volunteers and staff at each location that will be walking around to take your questions. So please share those with them and they will post your questions online, so we'll be able to answer them for you. Thank you, Dr. Cooper. Please don't go away. Let us switch over to meditation exercise with Ms. Ikland and we'll bring you back up for Q&A session. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, so it's again my pleasure to bring up Ms. Lauren Ikland. Lauren Ikland is a licensed clinical social worker in Houston, Texas. She completed a master's degree in social works from the University of Houston in 2016. She currently serves as both a behavioral health case manager at Project Royals here in Texas and as a therapist at a federally qualified health center. She has a passion for helping others along with educating a community about the importance of mental health. Lauren's goal is to fuse a business and social work background to eliminate health disparities. You can find Lauren's mental health content on both Instagram and TikTok at Lauren's Pink Coach. It is my pleasure to bring up stage Miss Lauren Ikland.
Hi, everyone. So we're just going to jump into this because we have mindfulness in 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now. There we go. Okay, so before I jump into the actual mindfulness and meditation exercise, I'm just going to go through what mindfulness is, because it's a word that's thrown around a lot in this, good climate of mental health being put at our forefront. So first, who can engage in mindfulness? Everyone, your dog, your mom, your teacher, your sister, your brother, your boyfriend, your girlfriend. Mindfulness isn't specific to any race, any age, any gender. Everyone can engage in mindfulness and meditation. For the what is mindfulness? I personally like this definition the best on mindful.com. This definition is: mindfulness is the basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we're doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's going on around us. As Dr. Cooper kind of touched on, that helps us bring back into our bodies and that awareness to what's going on with our emotions, which contributes to that emotional well-being. The beautiful thing about mindfulness is you can do it anytime. I love this image. It's of this person, they're taking a break, sitting on their desk. They have all these emails, pings. Personally too, I like to do mindfulness in traffic. Houston traffic is terrible. So you can really practice mindfulness anytime. It doesn't have to be in a yoga studio or on a yoga mat. Where, again, you can do mindfulness anytime and anywhere. You can do it in traffic, in school. I personally think it's good to do mindfulness when you're feeling stressed or in a stressful situation, such as a tough conversation. So you can actually stop and be mindful anywhere. It doesn't have to be in a specific space. And then why? Again, as Dr. Cooper touched on, mindfulness can play a really big role in improving our emotional well-being and our emotional intelligence. So some of the benefits of mindfulness and meditation are that we are able to better emotionally regulate. That means that we're better able to control our feelings. Stress reduction, better interpersonal relationships, and a more purposeful life. So when we're focused on mindfulness and meditation, we can focus on what matters to us instead of being stressed on things that may be insignificant at the end of the day. And then breathing exercises are really a big part of that meditation and mindfulness. I'm going to go through the 4x4 breathing. It's called different things. I refer to it as 4x4, but it's also called tactical or Navy SEAL type breathing. And the pranayama breathing, that's a big part of yoga. In yoga, if you've ever heard of that, I do have links to both if you want to look into the pranayama breathing after, but we're going to actually do the 4x4 breathing today. And then follow-up resources. This is a really handy mindfulness handout. I will just skim over it, but here's the link if you'd like to look at it. There's some other mindfulness activities in that handout. Mindfulness is a superpower. I love this little video about mindfulness. It's really, really cute, a really, really cute cartoon if you have time to look at that. Mindfulness support, mindful.com has all different types of resources for mindfulness and meditation if you're interested in learning more about that. So definitely check out that resource. And through Project Grow Houses, that's the organization that I do free behavioral health, mental health workshops for. They are virtual. We actually have a free workshop available on July 13th. At 6 p.m., you can either go to Project Grow Houses to register or contact me directly at my Project Grow Houses email to get that link. And then lastly, if you're interested in connecting, here's my work phone, my email, and I can be found on social media at Lawrence Pink Couch. The facilitator does have these slides if you would like to have this, so don't feel like you have to jot everything down. And we're going to jump into the 4x4 breathing. Over here. Okay, so the first thing that I want you to do is to picture a box similar like this one with equal sides. So that's 4 sides, this little square. And then essentially each part of the box is going to be a part of breathing that we're going to do. And this little video will walk us through it. So picture that box, again, get the image in your head, and then let's start. So we're going to breathe in for 4 seconds. We're going to hold our breath for 4 seconds. We're going to breathe out for 4 seconds. And we're going to hold for 4. So I'll pause that because it's going a little fast. It's essentially breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out, hold again. So again, going in a box. So the video is going to go, but I know it's kind of going through quickly. So now that we went through the tutorial, we can actually do it. So everybody ready? Get in our Zen and we'll start that again. Okay, and then you will have this video again for you to practice on your own. I don't want you to have to rush, but I also want to point out before my time is up, this mindfulness handout that you will have access to. This mindfulness handout goes over in a more structured format what I went over as far as benefits, what is mindfulness? Again, as Dr. Cooper touched on, acceptance for our emotions, that's a big part. And there's also some additional activities like body scans, the 5 senses, that'd be more grounding techniques for mindfulness. And I know that was kind of quick. I had 5 minutes, so hopefully I got the gist, but I'm open to any questions if anyone has them. Thank you guys so much. I hope to connect with you and stay zen.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much for walking us through, sharing those really helpful and practical resources. I think that's it for me, because, when you share information, the next thing is it practical? Is it something that, do I need to get gadgets? Do I need to get any resources to be able to do it? I mean, we all breathe in and out every day, right? So it's now putting conscious effort and being very intentional in practicing, something like that breathing exercise. The 4x4 is something that is very practical. And of course, all the links that you shared, all those links have been posted in the chat box for all our attendees and participants on Zoom. And for those that are at Santa Maria also, we will also be able to provide, those links for the group, so that way anyone can make good use of the resources that has been provided. Thank you so much, Ms. Lauren Ikland. I will bring back up Dr. Cooper so that we can answer a couple of questions that have come in, during the course of the presentation. I have one here saying, do you recommend any exercises for triggers? Because, during your presentation, you mentioned, okay, to avoid triggers, kind of stay away, if possible. So this question here is asking, are there any exercises that you recommend for that?
Awesome, great question. And so just like Ms. Ikland gave you all an awesome presentation on the 4x4 mindfulness activities are great exercises to manage those triggers in that moment, because sometimes things or people that's triggering you, you may not be able to just immediately remove yourself from the situation. So being able to do mindfulness, being able to take deep breaths and kind of giving yourself some of those self-affirmations of, it's okay, I won't have to be here a little longer. Or like the example I gave when I'm driving in traffic and try not to get road rage, it's like, you know what, it's okay, turn up your music. And so when dealing with triggers, it can just depend on the situation, but like the deep breathing and the mindfulness are those easy, quick exercises that you can go to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing on that. And, in line of the, the same trigger type of situation. So one of the recommendations you gave was to stay away from a trigger, right? Mm-hmm. But let's assume that someone has to be in close proximity with a trigger. What, close proximity could be from a work environment, it could be from a family situation, or, you have to always get on a train because that's the means of transportation that you have. And there's always a trigger whenever you get on the train type of a thing, right? So what will be some alternate options if avoiding the trigger is not necessarily applicable?
Right, another great question. And so I'll give an example, like if you're in a living situation and the person or the things that's triggering you in that particular situation, maybe it's excusing yourself to the restroom and like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom, locking the door, staying in the restroom for 5-10 minutes to where you're able to kind of gather yourself and calm yourself down. If it's getting on the train or like public transportation, you're right, you can't control a lot of the stuff that's going on, but maybe it's sitting away from other people. Maybe it's sitting at the back of the train or the bus so you can see what's going on. Maybe it's being able to have headphones in to where you're able to kind of listen to music to kind of mentally escape from it. And so it's doing situations to where you may not have to be directly interacting with those triggers, but just finding those creative ways of removing yourself. I'll give a quick example. If I've had a long day at work and I go home and I'm tired and I have, young children who are needing mommy and mommy and mommy, if I'm feeling overwhelmed and stressed, it's like, hey, mommy's gonna go iron for tomorrow. I might go to my room and lay on the bed and close the door. But in those 5 to 10 minutes, that's my escape for something that could be triggering, even though I love them, but sometimes they could be triggering. So it's being able to find those quick escapes in those moments.
Wow, yeah, that's again, very applicable, the quick escape, right? Just excuse yourself from, that situation and try to gain control, get into the restroom, do the 4x4.
Right, yes.
You can actually do the 4x4 while you're stepping away.
Right.
Literally. So, those are definitely, very practical approach that we can implement on a day-to-day basis. Another question here in the Q&A is saying, in regards to setting boundaries, what to say to professionals? What do you say to professionals who have to deal with multiple tasks while working with others that have more or less tasks?
Close your door. No, okay, I'm joking. But yes, in the work environment, sometimes it is difficult to navigate. So say like if you are the professional, you have a lot of tasks, and say there's someone who may have less tasks, and maybe you see them walking around a lot, or maybe you see them engaging and talking to others, or they're trying to talk to you, and it's causing you to feel triggered and stressed because it's like, why do I have all of these things to do? And it's like they're able to walk around. Seriously, if you have a door, try to close, the door. If you can, if you're really feeling overwhelmed at that moment, excusing yourself, and you taking a walk. Or if this person is interfering with all the tasks that you have, again, politely setting a boundaries like, hey, I would love to catch up. I would love to talk, but I do have quite a few things to do. So we can catch up later, when I finish. And that's you setting a boundary so that you can focus on your task. And so it's just looking again, how can you get the quick escape? It could do the 4x4 if you see them walking your way. Okay, let me breathe real quick so I can mentally prepare. But setting those boundaries, closing your door if you need to, getting up and taking yourself like a quick brief walk just to kind of, regain control of your emotions. And that tends to help a lot.
Absolutely. I mean, again, I'm loving this session because I love the practical aspect. Like, okay, can I do it now? Type of a thing, right? So what are those tips that are applicable, practicable, that we can kind of implement on a day-to-day basis, as we face situations. I'm looking in the chat box. It looks like we don't have any additional questions from the audience. And I see here that someone asked, this person saying, thank you for your presentation on wellness. Can we have copies of the presentation? Okay, so thank you, Dr. Cooper, for allowing that opportunity to share the presentation. So if you could drop your email address in the chat box, we will be able to email you a copy of the presentation. And again, this session is recorded. So this recording is going to be posted on our YouTube channel. So feel free to always go back in to listen and, engage in this, healthy well-being approach that is, again, very practicable, right? Like one of the slides that you mentioned is we need to prioritize ourselves, right? We put ourselves first. So saying no to something but putting yourself first is always important, especially, I mean, in this day and age, everybody's juggling.
Yes.
Like practically, we are all, finding the balance in between work and life and family responsibilities and, everything else that we are responsible for, but taking that quick break to put yourself first and having a moment to be very expressive regarding your needs and so that whatever those triggering situations have, please avoid them or put them under control as much as possible.
Yes.
We want to appreciate you, Dr. Cooper. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And the chat box and the Q&A would remain open for as many people that do have questions. We can definitely route that back to Dr. Cooper at the end of the presentation. I am going to switch gears here a little bit, make a couple of announcements before we move into the next session of our seminar this afternoon. Okay, once again, we want to say a big thank you to all the attendees, to everyone in the audience, especially those that are joining us from Santa Maria also, and to the leadership of Santa Maria also. Thank you for allowing us to share this moment with the community out there. And for everyone that is joining us online as well, we appreciate your time. Please share your feedback with us through the survey. The survey links will be posted as I'm speaking. And we have giveaways for the first 10 attendees that are eligible to receive some giveaways based on your participation in the survey. We also want to make an announcement that Community Engagement Core, we do outreach or seminar events every month. So next month, we are going to focus on prostate cancer. So for as many that might not know, prostate cancer is unfortunately one of the leading causes of death among African American men. So please save the dates. We will be live on June 23rd, 2020, where we would focus on Huddle Up for Better Health, improving prostate cancer awareness and screening options. So save the dates, and if you've not already joined our mailing list or how to connect with us, I will share that information on the next slide so that you would receive invites and reminders about our upcoming events. So here are the means that you can, connect with us. We are active on all social media handles: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Our handle is at CECTX Southern U. And you can also send us a text message, TSUCEC, to 855-264-9031, or feel free to give us a call, 713-313-1233. We are also active by email, cbmhrcommunity@tsu.edu, or you can connect with us on our website, and you will be able to find information about all our upcoming activities. And again, all the videos of our past seminars and all the seminars we'll be having in the near future will be available on YouTube. That is an enduring resource that we definitely want our community members to partake of. And at this point, it is my pleasure to bring up Dr. Orlando Milton. Dr. Milton Jr. received his doctorate in education administration from Texas Southern University. There, he is a distinguished faculty member, and he teaches in the social works department. He works primarily with the seniors, but also teaches across the curriculum. He demonstrates leadership and collegiality within the department and throughout the university. In the department, he is an advisor for interprofessional education simulations, field instructor / student trainer, advisory board coordinator, and a part of the curriculum committee. Moreover, he is an advisor for several student organizations, student recruiter, and currently serving as the TSU SHAPE Initiative Change/Yes Program Evaluator. Dr. Milton's research focuses on the graduation rates of male student athlete, Black male college athlete vulnerabilities, the rise of mental health in higher education, disadvantaged population, academic success, retention rates, at-risk youth, and eradicating social economic injustice. He continues to lend himself to the community by networking with faith-based and community organizations to conduct lectures and/or workshops. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Milton. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I'd like to first just start off by just thanking CEC for the opportunity to come here and just share. And then I also like to thank Dr. Cooper and Ms. Hinkling for a great presentation and just great information. I mean, with this Zen and these triggers and how to combat these triggers, I'm almost too relaxed over here. So, but once again, just a great job, and I'm just happy to be a part of it. But what I want to talk a little bit about today is just Black males' mental health, because it does matters. It really does matters. And let me start off, what is mental health? And when we think about mental health, and as Dr. Cooper alluded to earlier, and Ms. Hinkling, just talking about how prevalent that the mental health is now. I mean, you're hearing it from a lot of celebrities, you're hearing it from athletes, and they're pushing it to the forefront. So what is mental health? We know that mental health pretty much involves the emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It's all about mental well-being, physical, mental, social. We all like to be in sync. That's how I like to look at it, being in sync with yourself. What else does mental health consist of? How people think, feel, and behave. How you think can affect how you feel, and how you feel could affect how you behave. So that's a trifecta. If you're unbalanced and you're not having in a good state, that can lead to some bad choices and some bad situations. What else we have here? How people handle stress, relate to others, and make healthy choices. As Dr. Cooper alluded to, you have someone coming toward your office, you might have to step back and do the breathing exercise just to kind of get yourself together to tackle that. And it's not only with your colleagues too. Sometimes you go through that with students as well, So how to handle stress, relate to others, and make healthy choices. And this is important at every stage of life. It doesn't matter if you're a child, if you're an adolescent, if you're in your adulthood, mental health is important for everyone. A mental well-being person can realize their potential and cope with normal stressors. And stressors, they're inevitable. So just to be able to not only cope with normal stresses and contribute to the community as well, too, in a productive way. Also, good mental health allows someone to live a fulfilling and satisfying life, Okay, mental health and mental illness. These terms are used interchangeably. I even also do it, but I want to state that there is a difference. It kind of puts me in the mind of, if you have a family, you have siblings, you all rooted from the same values, the cores, you all rooted from the same, but you are different. So with mental health, we all have mental health, just like we all have health. You cannot have one without the other. So in the course of a lifetime, not everyone will experience mental illness, but everyone will wrestle with their mental well-being. Also, poor mental health is not always due to mental illness. It's not. So if we go to the mental illness side, our diagnosed conditions, conditions such as depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, those type things we look at as a mental illness. Also, they can be produced from factors as genes, and this is such a thing as abnormal genes. Sometimes we inherit these genes from parents, or genes can just change during life, It can also be produced from brain chemistry, just chemical imbalances sometimes will bring about a mental illness, and definitely trauma possesses different symptoms, and some may take effort to work through. So depending on what your diagnosis is, who you are, because as Dr. Cooper stated earlier, it is based on an individual basis. So it may take you longer to work through it. That doesn't mean that anything is wrong with you. It's just your ideal plan to work the process through does not always lead to poor mental health. So if you look at mental health, the last bullet, poor mental health is not always due to mental illness. And if you look at the last bullet on mental illness, does not always lead to poor mental health. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. Although it's still in the same family, you hear people use it interchangeably, but there is a slight difference. There is a slight difference, just like it's a difference between you and your siblings. Okay, some causes of mental health challenges. So one, experiencing discrimination, stigma, or racism. Just the idea of being discriminated against, having some stigma placed on you, just being, in a situation where someone is blatantly being racist towards you, those things can set you off, get you off kill. And then you definitely probably need to use some of those breathing techniques or some of those preventative measures that were shared earlier. Some other causes of mental health challenges is abuse, trauma, or neglect. And the abuse can be something that occurred when you was much younger, but something can trigger that, and that can, set you off. Same with trauma as well as neglect. These things could have occurred early on in your life, or they can occur later on in your life. But whichever way it goes, these can be some things that causes some challenges in your mental health. Social disadvantage, I like to look at social disadvantage as those who have been subjected to racial or ethnic prejudice or cultural biases within society because you belong specifically to a group. Simply because you belong to a group. Also, we know poverty and debt. Poverty, once again, you belong to a particular group. Socioeconomic disparities, debt, all of that stuff goes together, and they can cause some major challenges in your mental health. Not knowing how you're going to eat, not knowing how you're going to pay for something, those can cause some major challenges in your mental health. Bereavement, losing someone close to you, definitely can cause some challenges in your mental health. Grieving, a lot of people don't even go through the grieving process. They might not be familiar with the process, so they don't know how to grieve. And so just holding on to those things can create, some challenges in your mental health at all time level. Stress, good old stress, term that we always heard and still stands to be true today. Stress can kill, stress can definitely kill. But I remember when I was younger, I did not know that I got stressed. I just felt like, no, I'm fine. I'll take care of that. Or, oh, it's not that bad. I can handle that. And I can handle that. Not till I got a little older that I realized that I was stressed. So, I had to deal with that accordingly. And then I had to understand and accept that it was okay to be stressed. It was okay to be stressed. Isolation or loneliness, isolation and loneliness can cause some challenges in your mental health. Sometimes, you just don't want to be bothered. And that can take place when you're at work as well, too. You just don't want to be bothered. That's why you close the door and you try to hide as much as you can until you can try to get some of this stuff up off your plate. Or, but sometimes, just isolation in general, or just loneliness, because you could be still suffering from some of the things that was mentioned earlier, abuse, trauma, neglect. Maybe you're still dealing with a situation where you was, somebody was racist against you, maybe you're still dealing with someone who you lost, or maybe you're still stressed, so all those things can play a role, and it doesn't have to be separately. It can all take place, simultaneously. Some other causes of mental health challenges: unemployment or losing the job. Unemployment or losing the job. especially what we're just coming out of. I'm gonna just go ahead and put that out there. COVID-19 was one of the worst pandemics in history. And it seemed like we're still struggling with that, you know, some remnants of it. And now you hear that it's another wave coming through, you know. So unemployment, if you just look at COVID-19 and how it affected people, and that should touch bases with the other bullet points I have too, but how it affected people. People were losing their jobs, you know. People were willing to work, but could not work. So that brought about a lot of mental health challenges. Domestic violence, bullying, or other abuse. Domestic violence during the pandemic increased drastically, you know. Bullying, you know. See, I'm an old man, but now they have cyberbullying, you know. That's on a whole different level of bullying. So you can, you know, touch someone being in a whole different country and still bully someone. Homelessness and poor housing. If I can just stick with COVID-19, a lot of individuals were losing homes, losing their housing. You know, there was programs set in place, but some people couldn't access the program, or they missed out on the program. And all of those things, you know, brought a lot of challenges to their mental health. Okay. I can't work, but I want to work. I can't provide, but I want to provide. You know, what do I do? What do I do? Those were just some things that occurred, and it caused a lot of challenges in mental health. Being a long-time caregiver, you know, that can bring a lot to your mental health, that challenges your mental health. And what was discussed and shared earlier, self-care. Self-care is so important, so important. And for long-time caregivers, they have to have outlets. You have to have an outlet to be able to still do what you do, because that's a taxing job. Doesn't mean that you don't want to do it and you don't care for that individual, but it's okay to accept the fact that, you know, you need an outlet. Drug or alcohol misuse, you know, that can also affect your mental health challenges. You know, just start off recreation, use it in the wrong way, and once again, that can affect mental health challenges in individuals. Okay, let's look at some symptoms of mental health. Change in feelings or demeanor. You know, sometimes, you know what, you're used to doing this and doing that, being outgoing, but sometimes you just feel like, you know what, I'm not interested in doing that, you know. And sometimes you don't even know that your demeanor have changed until someone brings it to your attention. And then they may ask you, you know, and then that's when it hits you like, oh, really? Like my demeanor has changed? Sometimes I get that from students. Loss of interest, things that you used to be interested in, you're no longer interested in, you know. That can last a long time or that can last a short time, you know. But for some odd reason, you're like, man, I'm not interested in doing this. It could be something that you love. I'm not interested in doing that. You know, symptom of mental health. Low energy, you know. You're a go-getter, you do this, you do 20 things on the weekend and still be at work at 7 a.m. ready to go. And then all of a sudden, you know, you can't get going and you don't know what's going on. That could be a symptom of mental health. Change in sleeping habits. You know, and when I say changing sleeping habits, that can go for oversleeping, or that can go for undersleeping. I know for me, when I have something that I'm working on, you know, I can wake up in the middle of the night, or should I say morning, and then that occupy my mind, and then it's like I can't go back to sleep. I'm thinking about, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that. Okay, this is how I'm going to do this and do that, you know. And if that's a constant, yes, definitely can be a symptom of mental health. Difficulty interacting with others. As I stated, there are sometimes, you know what, like, no, I just don't feel like being bothered. I just don't feel like being bothered, you know, or if you do convince yourself to be bothered, it's not your normal self. And sometimes it's just across the board, but you just don't feel like being bothered with anyone. Unpredictable emotions. Sometimes you don't know if you want to laugh or if you want to cry, or you're doing them both at the same time. You know, it's just like your emotions, like you're all over the place and you're on a roller coaster. Those can be symptoms of mental health. Now let's look at, from a Black male standpoint, let's look at the history. Now, the history runs deep. Now, of course, this is just a snapshot of the history. Like, historically, Black males have been dehumanized, oppressed, discriminated against, and deliberate violence against Black males has transferred to present day racism. And so when I talk about the racism, I'm looking at it from a structural racism standpoint, where you have cultural values in a society and they are ingrained in our daily life. And it's to the point where they seem like these are the things to do. And for example of that is, judge gives lengthier sentences to a person of color compared to a white person who committed the same charge. So we have the structural racism. We also have the institutional racism, you know, policies or behaviors within an organization that's intended to discriminate against people of color, you know. And an example of that can be a hiring manager, you know, won't hire an individual based on their name. Then we also have individual racism, you know, and that's just a person believing that in white supremacy. So historically, like I said, this is just a quick snapshot, you know, dehumanized, oppressed, and discriminated against. And those things are still prevalent in today's society. So slavery, sharecropping, you know, all of those things, you know. And another thing, what seemed to be popular right now, that's constantly in the news, especially from a political standpoint, is the critical race theory, you know. And critical race theory is a theory that's been around for 40 years, you know. Pretty much is based on the US social institutions, you know, the healthcare, the criminal justice, you know, housing, education, you know, they embedded in laws and regulations and rules and procedures that'll lead for different outcomes, you know, for different races, you know. And as a great philosopher in my day, David Banner said, who's the villain? Is it racism or is it history? And we cannot erase our history, okay? Trust issues, just based on the Black male's history that he had to endure, going back to slavery, trust issues are very, very prevalent, you know, and they come from all sides. you know, and I'll touch more into that a little later. Believing police don't care about me, you know, believing police don't care about me. That is even prevalent. And I must admit, that's prevalent for me as well. You know, I feel like just because I have a DR in my name, I am still a Black male. And if you catch me on the weekend and I'm coming from the gym and I have my hat to the back, you know, I'm no longer Dr. Milton, you know. But if you'll just give me a moment just to share a few names on why we still feel like that, you know. Andre Hill was 47 when he was killed by police officers. Dante Wright was 20 when he was killed by police officers. Manuel Ellis, 33. Stephon Clark, 22. Botham John, 26. Philando Castile, 32. Alton Sterling, 37. Freddie Gray, 25. Eric Garner, 43. Tamir Rice, 12. Michael Brown, 18. And on May 25th, 2020, George Floyd was killed at the age of 46. Trying to figure out how to not doubt self because everybody else do, you know. When you're in a society and you feel like you can never be good enough, or to even get an opportunity, you have to be better than everyone else. And that still doesn't grant you an opportunity at the table, you know. Still trying to balance that and figure it out. That's part of the history. Inadequate access to health, educational, social, and economic resources, you know, those are still prevalent and land true today. And it's still an issue and a problem that we struggle with. Did you know, according to the Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Minority Health, Black adults in the US are more likely than white adults to report persistent symptoms of emotional distress, the sadness, the hopelessness, etc. Did you know, as stated by the American Psychological Association, Black adults living below the poverty line are more than twice as likely to report serious psychological distress as US adults who have financial security, you know. So, did you know, as maintained by the American Psychiatric Association, Black adults are less likely to receive consistent care, less frequently included in research. So I'm so grateful for CEC for looking at African-American males as it relates to prostate cancer, so grateful. And more probable to use emergency rooms or primary care than a mental health specialist. Black masculinity. Okay, here we go. More likely to endorse the traditional masculinity ideologies. I have to be strong. I have to be the breadwinner. I need to be the provider from my home. I don't cry. I never show any vulnerability. I'm never considered weak. I'm always tough. We restrict emotions to ones that we feel are acceptable, like anger, happiness, and even lust. So we're still based and rooted off those ideologies, you know? And guess what? Endorsing those specific views, but cannot meet them, creates internal conflict within ourselves. Stress. What's going on? Why I can't do this? But we're already fighting against other things that was indicated in the history, the discrimination, you know, the oppression, the racism, you know. So if we cannot meet those goals or be able to provide for a family. There's a lot of internal conflict that take place. We also use our Black masculinity to overcome societal pressures and harsh realities of oppression and racism. So I have to be tough and strong to overcome what's outside my home so I can take care of my family. I have to be, and, expectations to follow a specific set of behaviors creates a toxic environment. But that's the mindset. I'm endorsing those traditional masculine ideologies. Okay. Takes a toll and wears on the physical as well as mental health. But when you think about it, you see it everywhere because it's also in traditional media. The portrayals of the Black man are overly masculine, aggressive, hypersexual, no signs of emotions. So not only did I grow up with those values and those ideologies, it's perpetuated constantly through media, through TV, everything, internalized views of masculinity make a lot of Black males resistant to therapy. So if we're resistant to therapy, we are talking to someone. And a lot of times those discussions are held where? At barbershops. Those discussions are held through our religion. Those discussions are held at church. And sometimes we talk to close family and friends to address what's going on in our mental health. And a lot of times, Black males, they might not necessarily agree with those ideologies, but they still abide by them because they feel like that's the thing to do. So, share a few common beliefs. Acknowledging and talking about having mental health issues means I'm weak. And guess what? I can't be weak. I cannot be weak, Seeking help is equivalent to telling a stranger my business, Definitely don't want to share our business, Nobody cares about my mental health anyway. And the infamous one that everybody likes to talk about. I'm not crazy. If they say you need to go talk to someone, the first thing they say, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy at all. Okay, some barriers to care. Historic mistrust of healthcare and medical providers. So once again, remember the Tuskegee Airman syphilis experiment? Black men had syphilis. They was allowed to have syphilis even though penicillin was available, and they did not get the treatment that they needed. They were told that they were being treated for a bad blood, a local term, that was used to deal with, several ailments and fatigue, Also, their informed consent was never collected. So when you have situations such as that, historical situations, and then when it comes down to even, taking a shot for COVID, I must admit, I had my reservations, but that stuff is deeply embedded. You didn't know what the government is trying to do, are they plotting, what's really going on? But those are things that was just embedded in the mind because of historical events that occurred where, Black men were not treated fairly. Other thing, racism and biases in the healthcare system. I mean, just going to the healthcare system and people have these stereotypes about you and that you can't pay or whatever it may be, you know, those things takes a toll on you as well. Scarcity and resources, you know, what I realized is not a lot of African American, you know, therapists out here, you know, and so that can affect individuals, you know, who wants to meet with someone who they might feel like is like-minded. Lack of health insurance, live in area with few services and reliable transportation, you know, all of those things are barriers to care. Stigma and misinformation about mental health deter Black males from seeking assistance as well. So our inability to allow new information or correct information to come in, you know, sometimes that's a struggle for us as well. So what can we do? Less emphasis on resistance of therapy and more focus on why Black males feel uncomfortable. You know, getting to know who they are and where they come from. As we say in social work, meeting them where they are, you know, create a culturally responsive and appropriate mental health treatment, you know, one that can reflect back on their struggles and their pains and once again, meet them where they are. Black males must relearn themselves. So things that have been embedded in me for years, and I mean years, you know, I have to learn my emotions. That is okay. It's okay to cry. That doesn't mean that I'm weak. What it really means to be a man, you know, ideologies that I grew up with, you know, are no longer, you know, prevalent, you know, because things have changed and it's different, and it's okay for me to show emotions. It's okay if I can't be the sole provider. It's okay. Innovative treatments, culturally relevant ways, and being culturally competent of what's going on, allowing Black males to express themselves about their racist experiences, along with the feelings from those experiences. Those are some of the things that we need to just get started in innovative ways. I mean, you might have to do it outside the box of just a normal office and you're talking. So it's gonna have to really be innovative to make a dent and start this process so Black males can start looking at things differently, because we really need the assistance. Questions?
Thank you so much, Dr. Milton, you know, for that insightful presentation. You know, I must say that the content you shared definitely resonates a great deal, because, you know, addressing those historical incidents, because we just didn't get here, right? It's not like
Absolutely.
and we found ourselves in this situation. But thank you for sharing, you know, bringing out those historical perspectives, and most importantly, telling us the things that can be done, those practical steps of, okay, trying to go back now to relearn, you know, how do we really express our emotions, right? Or how do men, you know, express their emotions? It's okay to cry, you know, it's okay to actually embrace that there is a situation that needs attention. So thank you very much. We are very grateful for you for sharing your insights and your expertise. We do have a question in the chat box, and this is saying, can anger management classes help with mental health? Since we still have Dr. Cooper on the call, I would also like to bring her back up to kind of share our perception on, you know, anger management. You know, Dr. Mason can talk more from like the male perspective, and then Dr. Cooper can talk more on the counseling and, you know, general perspective.
Yes. Want me to?
Yeah, you can go first.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely. Anger management can help, because that's a tool for your toolbox that can assist you anytime you get angry. You know, it's not just one time that you can, no, anytime you get angry. And trust me, I think it's safe to say we all use anger management tools. And guess what? Sometimes I may not be as successful as I was the last time. However, it's always a learning experience, and you continue to get better as you go. You're never going to be perfect, but you grow as an individual, and what you really grow about, learning about yourself. Like it doesn't get any better than that, learning about yourself. So definitely anger management.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Milton. Dr. Cooper, any insights on that?
Yes, and I was going to say absolutely, Dr. Milton. Yes, it's a form of you prioritizing yourself. And so anger management, you can look at it as one of those self-care techniques. So if you find yourself experiencing anger issues, it's like an anger management class, that's you taking care of self, hence self-care. So absolutely, anger management is a great resource. If you're not able to control your anger, an anger management class is definitely beneficial for your mental health because it teaches you additional tools and skills, like Dr. Milton said, to use to manage your anger, because we all experience it. So it's just it's another way for you to take care of yourself, prioritize yourself.
Natural emotion.
Thank you.
Hinkland. No, I think we should let Ms. Hinkland.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say that, and Ms. Ikland, please kind of share more on the anger management, and are there classes or locations that you recommend when it comes to those resources to kind of help connect us and community members to resources, maybe online or in-person type of classes regarding anger management?
Yes, thank you. I think Dr. Milton, Dr. Cooper kind of hit the nail on the head, but I definitely think that could be tied to mindfulness as well, because we're becoming aware of our emotions, even with the breathing, being able to put a name to the emotion, being able to attach that with a specific trigger. And a lot of instances, maybe even, as Dr. Milton was kind of saying, tying that back to a trauma, like, why am I so triggered by this? And why is this manifesting as such a strong emotion? I think typically any therapist, want to do your research, but typically any mental health professional will be able to help you through some techniques to de-escalate that anger. And then if you're interested in low-cost clinics, because that's a thing, whether you're a college student or just someone who mental health services aren't affordable, I would say look into FQHCs. Those are federally qualified health centers, and they offer counseling services on a sliding fee scale, so you pay what you can pay.
Perfect. Definitely. I mean, thank you so much for sharing, those options. And I'm sure, listeners in the community would be able to, take good advantage of that resource. I also want to throw a question out, right? Dr. Milton shared a lot of information about male masculinity and how that impacts mental health. Can you kind of share quickly on your perception regarding how the significant other in a male's life, how can is there any help, from a spouse, a parent, a daughter, a son? Because if you kind of notice that there is an immediate family member that is, challenged with this male masculinity and how that impacts mental wellness, how can the significant other step in to offer some support?
Well, I guess it really depends on the situation, because sometimes daughters can just get to their dads and that's all she wrote, and that's a beautiful thing. But sometimes it's so etched in our spirit and soul, and we have so many years of feeling this way, and it just continues to add to it. Sometimes it's going to take a minute, even for the wife or the children or the mother, to break through. But if anybody has a chance, it's going to be family like that. It's going to be family like that. So yes, it's definitely an opportunity. Your chances, I think, are greater, with those relationships, but I also have to be real and honest too. Sometimes it's just etched so deep. Not saying that they can't be effective, but it's just going to take a process to get them there.
Perfect. Thank you. Ms. Ikland, any thoughts on that?
So I definitely think in the moment, sometimes it's just bringing it back to basics, treating that as a human. It's unfortunate when we get into, these buzzwords masculine, feminine, toxic masculinity, when the root is just to let people be human and express themselves and just be. But I think in the moment, definitely, maybe if you don't have the words and you see that someone you love is experiencing these things, getting them connected to a professional that may have the words and the capacity to help them, and just being there for them as much as you can in the best capacity that you can be, allowing them to process those emotions, to cry, to yell, to basically just get it out. Because I think that's a big thing with toxic masculinity and toxic masculinity is men aren't allowed to just express their emotions.
Absolutely, right.
Absolutely. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Dr. Cooper, any thoughts on that?
Just real quickly, as you all were talking about that, I just think of myself, and I always tease my husband how he has the best of both worlds. He has a wife, but then a wife who's a therapist, and him being a black male, and him being a black male, like, you know, he works in a he where he works, it's sometimes not the most supportive environment for him. I'll say that. And so, you know, he may call me and he may just be venting. And I know in that moment, there's nothing more that I can do but just sit there and listen. And once he finishes, he's like, thank you. And I'm like, okay, talk to you later, you know, because like Dr. Milton said, because unfortunately his lived experiences as a black man are so etched deeply. So even if I try therapy, or even if I try to be that supportive wife in that moment, he's not in a space to receive it. So I'm like, just vent. Like Ms. Ikland said, like, just let them just be there talking, screaming out. And then when he's done, he's done. So yeah, it's just showing up in the ways that they may need you in that particular moment. And sometimes it's us doing nothing, but just being present for it.
Because that's our safe place at that moment. And, you know, I'm gonna let it all out because I know you're not going to judge me.
Absolutely.
Right. Wow. This is amazing. A whole lot of, you know, practicable, you know, things that we can apply. You know, the examples you gave, listening, being right there at the moment, prioritizing ourselves, right? And creating that safe environment. And I mean, the example Dr. Cooper gave, as a wife and also a therapist, you don't need to wear both hats at the same time.
Absolutely, yes.
You know, there are times where you just wear the hat of being a friend or just being a listener, you know, and if you need to step in to be a therapist, so be it. So definitely, yeah, great information that has been shared today. And I also want to refer the audience back, because everything that we talked about today is more of, okay, practical resources, day-to-day things. The seminar that we had in March focused a little bit on medications. The pharmacist in me will not let it go, right? There are times where medical support is needed. So please feel free to refer back to that video. It's on YouTube, and feel free to share information, get medical support if it's needed. Mental health is a big thing. The suicide rates, suicide ideation, you know, drug abuse, addiction, all these things are on the rise. So please seek help, talk to somebody, and we hope that we can all connect together to build a mentally healthy environment, because that is really where everything stems from. There's no point for us to be physically healthy or looking healthy physically, but mentally crippled. So the goal here is to enable and enhance the mental well-being of each and every one of us. I cannot thank my speakers enough for, you know, joining us and sharing your expertise with us this afternoon. And to all our audience, thank you so much for staying through, for participating, for asking questions, and, you know, allowing us to pour into you through this avenue. At this point, I'll just share one or two announcements concerning community engagement call, and we'll be closing out for today. Give me 1 second. Let me grab my slide here. Okay, once again, we really want to hear feedback from the community members. So please, if you've not already done so, complete the survey, and we will be able to give eligible attendees some gift card for their participation. We also want to inform you that we have an outreach event coming up next month in June. Please save the date. Huddle Up for Better Health, improving prostate cancer awareness and screening options. So we want you to spread the word out to family, friends, and so that we can address this leading cause of mortality, you know, when it comes to cancer among African American men. And then lastly, these are ways that you can connect with us in the Community Engagement Core, social media presence, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn at CECTX Southern U, or you can send us a text message, give us a call, send us an email, or check us out on our website. And I want to say a big thank you to the leadership of Texas Southern University, to the leadership of the CBMHR, Dr. Lale, Dr. J, and Dr. Liang, and of course to NIH for the funding that we have received, because outside of this funding, we will not be able to do this incredible work that we are doing with with the community and with the audience today. And to everyone, all the volunteers and the CEC team that helped out on the hybrid location, we want to say thank you. And most importantly, to each and every one of you, our community members that have joined us in today's seminar, we thank you and we hope that you continue to stay in touch. And please, let's put ourselves first. Say no so that you can make yourself a priority, so that we make a commitment towards mental well-being. Thank you, and we'll be in touch.